You're watching Let the Quran Speak. Now we answer questions we've received from you, our viewers. If you have a question yourself, visit our website, www.quranspeaks.com. Okay, Brother Shabir, this is about what is the Islamic conception of the end of times, what is the Antichrist, and who is Mahdi? So maybe you can talk about all those things.
Yeah, well, in fact, they are related because in Islamic tradition it is mentioned that somewhere towards the end of time, Jesus will descend from the heavens, and that he will rule for a number of years. He will break the cross and kill the swine, and he will abolish the jizya, which is a tax that traditionally was leveled on non-Muslim minorities living under the protection of a Muslim state. And that there will be a time of peace for many years, some say for 7 years. And when Jesus returns, he will slay the Antichrist. So now that leads
So who's
us
the
to,
Antichrist?
yeah,
Yes.
the Antichrist. Or we might even ask, what is the Antichrist? Because is he human? What exactly is he? Well, some traditions seem to depict him as a human, to the extent that some people at the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, noticed an individual, Ibn Sayyad, and they thought that he might have been the Antichrist. So they observed him for a while, and then eventually they decided that no, he's not it.
So they observed him because of his physical characteristics or his personality? What was it about him?
I think it's all of these, not so much his physical characteristics, but his personality. They thought that he might be the Antichrist, a kind of devilish sort of person. But
So when Muslims talk about the Antichrist, do they have a physical description in mind, or is it something about the individual, the characteristics, like the personality?
Well,
That's what I'm getting
this
at.
is where there are physical descriptions, and those seem difficult to reconcile with the expectation that it could have been Ibn Sayyad, a certain historical person.
Okay.
Because the physical descriptions that are given in the hadiths or the traditions speak of somebody who will be blinded in one eye. And he will travel very fast, so he'll be in one continent in the morning, another continent in later in the day, and so on. And that he will have great powers with him, in that he will call people to worship him, and if somebody refuses, he will make an example out of a person by throwing him into what he has as hell. And it will turn out that what he has as hell, into which he throws this person who refuses to worship him, will turn out to be paradise for that person. And on the other hand, he will have what looks like a paradise, and those who do worship him will be put into the paradise, but that will turn out to be hell in reality for them. So this will be a person of such great powers, it is unimaginable that anyone could have thought that it's a living individual at the time. But that just goes to show that the hadiths or traditions about this were evolving in the early centuries of Islam until they amounted to what we have now in the classical texts of hadith collections of traditions. They were passed on orally, they developed and grew and evolved, and eventually we have the collections that we have now. But there is the general
so do we
expectation.
feel confident then that the Antichrist will come as is depicted in the hadith?
We need to study these hadiths again, because the classical scholarship largely took the hadiths as they are, and they wrote about the expectation of the Antichrist as though these hadiths were in their totality dependable. And where they saw some conflict between them, they tried their best to reconcile them on the expectation or on the assumption that all of these are genuine sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. It was only a matter of trying to understand what exactly they say. So some more work needs to be done on that. But to describe the classical projection of the image of the Antichrist, as he's called Al-Masih ad-Dajjal in the Islamic tradition, it is mentioned that he will cause havoc far and wide, and it is in response to his work or his evils that Jesus will now descend, and then he will meet him at a place called Lud, which is now identified as a place close to Tel Aviv. And it is known that there is an airport there, so one wonders about the speed of the Dajjal, his international travel being in one continent in the morning, another by evening. But in any case, it is said that Jesus, on whom be peace, will descend on the wings of two angels. He will arrive on the white minaret of a mosque in Damascus. He will pray with the Muslims. There will be the time of the morning prayer. And after having performed the prayer, he will go out with some of Muslims following him. And he will meet the Dajjal, or the Antichrist, at this place called Lud, near Tel Aviv. And he will throw a spear into his body. And it is said that the Dajjal, in fact, will start to melt on the sight of Jesus, in any case. But the spear will be the last thrust that finishes him off. And then there will be this period of peace.
Mm-hmm. So how do we get to the end of times then?
Well, I did mention the Mahdi. It is said that in connection with this story of Jesus and the Antichrist, that there will be another figure who is known as the Mahdi, the Guided One. That's what his name, the title means, the Guided One. So some righteous individual who will also spread peace on the earth. Some think that he will come before Jesus, that he will spread peace for a certain amount of time, and then after this, things will return to chaos, and that will be fueled more by the acts of the Antichrist until Jesus comes and slays him as well. The Mahdi is described as a person who will be from among the descendants of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, through his daughter Fatima. And this, in a way, coincides with some of the expectations of those of the Shia branch of Islamic following as well, because they expect that there will be a return of the hidden Imam as the Mahdi, or as the Guided One. You asked about the end of time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, following this, it is reported in Islamic traditions that the sun will rise from the west. And how exactly this might be physically possible, this is a different question. A course I took in science many years ago suggested that some of the planets in our solar system are actually rotating in an unusual manner. One planet is actually rotating on its side as opposed to in an upright way, and another one is actually spinning backwards as compared with the other planets. And the reason for the unusual rotation of these planets is given as being the result of an asteroid having hit these planets so hard that it actually knocked them out of their usual orbits and their rotating sequence. So it is possible, it seems to me, and God knows best, that if the Earth is in a similar way hit by an asteroid, or in some other way by the power of God, it is made to spin in its other direction than its usual spin, then it will appear to us as if the sun is actually rising from the west instead of from the east.
Of course, it doesn't need to be any sort of scientific explanation. I mean, based on what you said about the Antichrist, it's very fantastical, and it seems like a miracle.
Of course, with the hadiths which depict the future on the whole, we are not dealing with reports like the reports of hadith that describe the prayer, for example. Now let me explain the difference. You see, when there was a living tradition, there was something that people are doing every day, and they learnt it precisely from the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, or he told them do it like this, and they kept doing it every day. Everybody knew how it was to be done, and there was nothing to remember. But when there are reports about something that will happen in the future, there is a question, do we have the precise words of the Prophet, peace be upon him, or did somebody make a mistake in what they narrated?
All right, we'll leave it at that. Thank you for your time, Brother Shabir.
You're welcome.
That's all the time we have. Visit our website, www.QuranSpeaks.com, and check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/QuranSpeaks. As always, please continue to write to us. Your comments and questions help guide the show. I'm Safiya Ali. For all of us here at Let the Quran Speak, thank you for watching. I'll see you next week.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allah.